Good evening, I'm Alan Jackson and welcome to Nashville. School is out and a lot of parents are trying to figure out where to send their children to college this fall. It used to be that the college search was focused on the quality of the professors, the look and feel of the campus, maybe recommendations from friends, maybe even the success of the school's football team. But things have changed and families are now also looking at the ideological messages which schools are pushing, none of which shows up in their sales pitch. Things have gotten so bad at some schools that students are afraid to come out of their dorm rooms because they fear they might get hurt. Deeply progressive teachers think that a semester of Economics 101 is just the right place to teach the value of socialism and communism, where capitalism is a bad thing and workers are exploited and underpaid. Of course, they say nothing about the misery that existed in East Germany before the Berlin Wall came down, or the old Soviet Union, or China and North Korea today, or even Cuba, where the average government salary is $17 a month. Well, fortunately, some of our elected leaders are trying to do something to turn things around. So with that, I want to introduce our guest today, the distinguished Congressman from Utah, Burgess Owens. Welcome back, Congressman.
Alan, looking forward to chatting with you. We're preparing some great topics. I can't wait to get started, for sure.
Well, I want to thank you on behalf of so many people that I know for the fact that you introduced the Accreditation for College Excellence Act, which makes very clear that federal accreditation must never be used as a tool to enforce ideological conformity. Translation, no more speech police pressuring colleges to adopt DEI mandates or CRT programs. Can you tell us more about what you have in mind?
Well, first of all, Alan, that's a great monologue. Way to get started with this process. And you're correct. The parents are now awake. We're realizing, and I'll say this, probably one of the toughest times we went through was COVID. But during COVID, we had a chance to kind of begin to look over our kids' shoulders and see what they were being taught. Realize that this is not something that's been happening just overnight. This has been going on for quite a while. The Marxist has been marching through our educational system, and now we begin to see the fruit of that. We now go to colleges where common sense makes no sense at all in these places. We have folks who don't have the courage to go out and start a business and build and take risks. They find themselves in these college institutions where it's very safe. Kids come to them. They learn from them. They leave with debt way too high to be able to take care of, with the degrees that mean nothing, and at the same time hating our country. So those things are changing, and this is just one piece of it. We're realizing throughout the entire supply chain, the Marxists have been putting their stamp, and accreditation is a big piece of it. Accreditation basically says that based on these particular creditors, colleges can either receive funds, can get curriculum put through or not. So they have a lot of power, and that power has been pretty much dictating things like DEI, critical race theories, all the crazy things we're now seeing that our kids are coming through. So some of the better colleges that in the past had remarkable reputations. So that's changing now. This is just one piece of it. And we're also, with the One Big Beautiful Bill, we're looking at having colleges have some kind of skin in the game. If they're putting out kids that cannot get a good job with the degrees that mean absolutely nothing, they're going to have to claw back some of their income and make sure they're paying some of the bills these kids are coming through with. So this accreditation piece is just one small piece of the entire process that we're now looking at to make sure that we have the smartest, most productive workforce, powerless middle class that any country has ever seen before. And I'm excited about being part of that process.
Well, another thing I noticed about your Accreditation Act is it protects a college's religious mission and its ability to require adherence to religious codes of conduct and practices. You know, as a pastor, I can tell you that there are plenty of parents and students who are looking for that. Can you explain what your thoughts are here?
Well, it comes down to this. When at the end of the day, we have certain rights, and the right of speech, the right of religion, those are all part of it. Our country is the great country it is because we began with the concepts of becoming a more perfect union, with the concepts of faith as being a big piece of what makes freedom what it is. So understand that everything we're doing right now is just getting ourselves back on track on the way our country always felt. The idea of religion, those institutions that allow people to come and gain their faith, gain their confidence, those things, those institutions should be also protected and allowed to proceed and move forward, and not put in a position where they're put out of business. I think it's important now just to kind of highlight what we're up against. You know, our country is based on Judeo-Christian values. The idea of becoming a more perfect union, that all men are created equal. that we can have a fair chance because we have a safe society. The other side of that coin is something called Marxism. Marxism hates the tenets that we believe in. We believe in faith, family, the free market, education. They hate every single one of them. So at the end of the day, what we've been dealing with for really for decades, are institutions that's trying to undermine everything that our country is built upon. So we're getting back to that. We're going to make sure our kids come through not only with an education that will prepare them for a remarkable workforce that we're going to grow, thinking outside the box, being willing to take a risk. If they fail because they have the faith, they can stand back up and say, in this country, you can always have a second chance. To look at each other inside out, not outside in. Everything I'm talking about right now is the American way, things we grew up with, that we now have to make sure our kids have the same opportunities to live and experience, and just take this legacy that we've been given down to the next generation. So education is all part of it, and I'm just thankful. You kind of made an analogy earlier at that, to think what the things I'm doing here. Just know, this is the American way. We are coming together like never before. We, the people, are making changes here in D.C. We're expecting certain things to happen in our college institutions, and I'm just, again, proud to be part of it. But it all began in November of last year. We, the people, said, we're going to get ourselves back on track, and this is the result of getting that done.
Well, still on the subject of schools, you've also been pressing the case for something else that was in the big, beautiful bill recently passed, nationwide school choice. You know, it's not a party issue because more than 80% of the country, Democrats and Republicans, support school choice. You're not the only member pushing for this. Listen to Senator Ted Cruz.
Across America, millions of children, especially low-income African-American and Hispanic children, are trapped in failing schools. They face crime and violence and despair. Without the ability to learn and prosper, they are denied a fair shot at the American dream. School choice is the civil rights issue of the 21st century. Every child, regardless of race or wealth or ethnicity, deserves access to an excellent education.
Well, you spoke of your own family history on this idea, growing up in the segregated South. Could you share a bit of that with our viewers now?
Absolutely, and thanks. Thank you for the emphasis you're putting on this. There's nothing more important for our kids, for our legacy, than being educated. It was why our founder said, ignorant free can never be. Well, that's the bottom line. Now, for those who don't know, I grew up in the Deep South, segregated South. My first exposure to white Americans was until I was 16 years old. But let me tell you about that community I grew up in, because every community believes in faith, family, free market, and education wants to be competitive. We want to command respect. In my Black community across the country, the only way we could command respect was by winning, through meritocracy. By making sure we're educated, we can debate issues, we can go out and work hard, we can have strong families, we can educate our kids. Up from 1940s until the 1960s, because of those tenets that we tied into as a segregated community, my race, the Black community, led our country in the growth of the middle class, men matriculated for college, men committed to marriage, and percentage of entrepreneurs. Keep in mind that this is against all other races, because we're so focused on making sure that when our kids left the home, they were going to be prepared to go out and not only win and build, but be a good reflection on the community that they left. You see what's going on right now? Well, that's turned upside down because the leftists have done a great job of making sure our kids are ignorant. In the state of California, 2017, 75% of the Black boys could not read and write. You now see the latest studies just came out just recently that between 70 to 80% of kids across our country cannot read and do math. We have places in Baltimore, zero proficiency in math. That is a result of Marxism. That's a result of a Department of Education that's more concerned about adults than they are about our kids. So this bill that we're going through right now, it allows an individual like ourselves to invest into for tax credits. And those tax credits, this does not come out at all out of the local environment, the local districts. Every parent can go to these scholarship granting organizations, pull money out of that to do public, private, parochial, homeschool, whatever they might want to do for their kid, and give the chance to have true merit in this system. One thing, Alan, that we have been missing from the very beginning, we don't have competition in education. Mm-hmm. Every other place, every industry has it. That's why we get the best product, the least cost. Education's been a monopoly. It's been controlled by the hard left, and therefore we have no choice, and so many kids are getting hurt. So this will bring merit back. Parents can start looking at the best choice for themselves. And guess what? Those schools that in the past have not had competition, they're going to become better now. Public schools become better because now they have they have to hold on to their kids and be accountable for that process.
Well, Congressman Owens, stay with us for another segment. We got a lot more to talk about. During the break, I'd like those of you watching to go to ajnow.com and see what we've set up. All the shows, an easy link for emailing to us, and a lot more. We hope that it's useful to you. I'll be right back. We're back now with Utah Congressman Burgess Owens. There's quite a lot more that goes on at the Capitol that doesn't get the national attention it deserves. So let me bring this up today. You and Florida Congressman Byron Donalds introduced a resolution. It hasn't been voted on yet, but it ties into the fact that you have 6 children and 17 grandchildren already. Not everybody's so blessed. So you want to make sure that the country knows that nearly 1 out of every 4 American children doesn't have a father in their life. Senator Josh Hawley is on your side as well. Listen to his remarks.
You have a generation, multiple generations now, many young men have grown up without their dads around. We have an epidemic of fatherlessness in this country.
Can you tell us what you have in mind for your resolution?
Absolutely, and I think it's so timely. Again, I must say, these are remarkable times we're going through, Alan, that our country is kind of looking back on what we need to do better. We're kind of infrastructure looking and saying that we're off track. And to make this thing right, we have to get our family back in place. And I was just very, very blessed. I was raised by the greatest generation. These were men who went out to fight the war, came back and built a remarkable middle class, who really believed in faith. They led their families in that regard, and they believed in their families. It comes down to very simply this: young men will emulate what they see in the household. They want to be what they see in the household. I'm thankful to have a father who went to World War II. He came back. He taught me some basic things that was taught to that generation: love God, country, family, respect women, and authority. We were taught that. So it's instinctive for us to do certain things. We see women, for instance, being attacked. We see men trying to compete in women's sports. It's against our very core, because we were taught that was not the way to respect womanhood. So those are the kind of things that young men have to see. Unfortunately, that great community I talked about in the last segment, I saw it disappearing. I saw it disappearing when these welfare departments were put together. And the only thing that needed to be to qualify was for women not to have a man, not to have a job, and have as many kids as they want to. Now, just imagine what that does to a young man who grows up never understanding what it is to be responsible, to protect, provide, to think outside the box and go hard work. But yet to see people coming in and coming out, that's what they're emulate. So right now, that the day when I was growing up, when 80% of men were married to the mothers of their children, when I was being raised, in the black community, it's turned upside down. It's only now down. It's 80% of the men have deserted their families. Manhood is about fatherhood. It's how can I be a great example? How can I be the leader, the protector, the example? And so if you do that, we will start to get back that strong family union where not only young men know what to do when they grow up, but young women know what to look for when they grow up, and what kind of husband they want to have this family with and grow with. So that's going to be, you talk about a society that needs to survive. The family unit is the very core of that, and we have to get back to it for sure.
Well, here's another idea you've had that I love: renaming several rooms inside the House Press Gallery in the Capitol after Frederick Douglass. That's the place where the reporters work when they're covering Congress. You've got several co-sponsors already. So would you please explain why you chose Frederick Douglass for this press gallery plan?
It's for those who know the history, they understand who he was. A very good friend of Abraham Lincoln, a person who was born in slavery and taught himself how to read, and someone we're talking about now hundreds of years later because of what the impact he had and the pride he had and what our race could do. And I want to thank Byron again. Byron is the one who's kind of initiated this process, and we have a bipartisan buy-in to it. It's where Frederick Douglass will come and do press reporting for his newspaper. It's right above the House floor. I had a chance just recently to take my family up to visit that. So it is now the Frederick Douglass Press Gallery. It's to highlight again the greatness of our nation, that a former slave can become friends to a president, to be invited to come into the White House. I mean, the House of Representatives to report to his paper. That's what America comes down to. And now we're seeing we'll come even so much further than that. We have now black men and women on the floor as a president, across the board, based on merit, that we can do anything. And so that's the real message, I think, of Frederick Douglass Press Gallery, is that in this country, anything is possible if you dream big, overcome obstacles, don't feel sorry for yourself. Never be a victim, be a victor. And he's a great example of that. And here we are talking about him, and somebody I have so much respect for. And I'm glad to be part of this process of getting his name, given the honor that he really does deserve.
Congressman, I'm curious, do you think Frederick Douglass would have given gallery credentials to some of the Washington media who call themselves journalists today?
He would have spoken out. He would have done it because he believed in free speech. But believe me, he would have been at the very front of putting down what is happening now in our country. And here's the thing. I'm just going to wrap that on a nice little bow. We're going to get our kids educated so we can have these kind of conversations. And no matter which side of the aisle we sit on, as long as we can feel comfortable and confident about ourselves, we can have the toughest decisions, our toughest conversations, still respect each other, still be friends, and move our country forward, because we still have the same basic end game for our country. That is what Frederick Douglass stood for. That's what President Abraham Lincoln stood for. That's what our president today, Donald J. Trump, stands for. And so do the American people. That's why we voted the way we did in November. So we're coming back to that, becoming a more perfect union. You can see it happening with fatherhood, with engagement the way we are, with getting good people that will speak and talk and respect each other, and more importantly, having such a commitment to our kids. They should run circles around us. We should be proud of what we're leaving our name to. And the only way to do that is make sure they're educated, they're working hard, they become part of the middle class, and then they're willing to fight and fight for this great country that they now can really, truly appreciate.
Well, Congressman Burgess Owens, thank you for sharing your time with us today. We'll have you on again soon.
Alan, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Look forward to it. Absolutely.
In a moment, signs of hope, and later, some of your emails. So stay right where you are, and I'll be right back. I am profoundly grateful to Congressman Owens for his tireless efforts towards a brighter future for our children. The awkward reality is that education must be reimagined. It isn't working. Our schools are less safe, they're less effective. Our universities, they're fertile grounds for a worldview opposed to ours. It wasn't always that way. A bit of history will help, perhaps. Our finest universities began as schools to train Christian ministers, places like Harvard and Yale. Of the first 108 universities founded in America, 106 were distinctly Christian, including the first, Harvard University, chartered in 1636. For over 100 years, more than 50% of all Harvard graduates were pastors. It's clear from history that the Bible and the Christian faith were foundational to our educational and our judicial system. We're not the first generation where our schools have wandered into the weeds, who seek the applause of a secular culture by diminishing our commitment to biblical values. We're simply the current version. The question is, how far will we allow our institutions to drift before we use our voices and our influence? We see the negative outcomes. I believe with all my heart that Christianity is the hope of humanity. Jesus changes us from the inside out. So we must be the voice of truth in this season of cultural change. We'll be right back with your emails. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us. Just a reminder, if you missed the live broadcast, you can always go to ajnow.com. There's an archive there of all the shows. You can watch them at your leisure. There's an easy link. You can send us an email, maybe share an episode with a friend. Your emails are always a highlight. Rebecca sent a note. She said, I pray for Israel and her people every day. I have a hard time understanding all the anti-Semitism in America. The Jewish people are the Lord's chosen people, and they've been persecuted so much. I feel there is demonic work at hand. What can we do as born-again believers to stop this hatred in our own country? Well, Rebecca, I think we can start perhaps in our local churches and congregations, just reminding one another we are indebted to the Jewish people. It's a biblical idea. Without the Jewish people, we have no scriptures, we have no law, we have no covenants, we have no Messiah. We owe them a debt of gratitude. Doesn't mean everything that Israel does is perfect or should be supported, but it does mean we have to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and we have an obligation to be advocates for the Jewish people. Sandra C. emailed, "Thank you for your message of encouragement to step out of our own perspective and give thanks." Well, Sandra, it seems like we've become a nation of entitlements, and I believe one of the most powerful things we can do to break that very destructive trend is to begin to practice a sense of gratitude. We have more blessings than any people in history, and yet we're stamping our feet like petulant children demanding more. Let's just start every day by saying to God, thank you. We have food to eat and shelter, and we have hope for a future. That's a reason to be grateful. Well, I'm Alan Jackson. Thank you for spending a bit of time with us, and I pray you have a wonderful evening.